Hello and welcome to the Trending Now podcast on CHCH Podcast. I'm your host, Louie Butko. Thank you for joining us today. However you found us, we appreciate it. Remember, you can catch Trending Now every Monday to Friday at 7 p.m. and 11:30 on CHCH and at CHCH.com and streaming live on our Trending Now YouTube page. It has been a very busy week and no shortage of topics to dive into on today's show. And coming up, the war between Hamas and Israel stretches into its second week with no signs of slowing down. Matt Ingram is hosting Trending Now and has been on the story all week. He'll join us with the latest coming up. The U.S. Speaker of the House chair remains empty this hour as Ohio Republican Jim Jordan's third attempt to take the gavel fails this afternoon. The House remains paralyzed amid U.S. President Joe Biden's request for aid to Ukraine and Israel. And happy birthday to us as Trending Now celebrated its first birthday in the past week. The show's co-creator and producer Laura Sebben is back from vacation and joins us to celebrate year one. Speaking of, Laura Sebben, welcome back from vacation. Happy birthday, Trending Now.
Thank you. Thank you.
I have to get to this because I am notoriously terrible at getting to our sponsor.
Oh, okay, go.
The Trending Now podcast is brought to you by the CHCH Sunday Blockbuster. It's spooky season on CHCH. Get ready to experience spine-tingling thrills and hair-raising chills in Goosebumps the movie. Based on the iconic series by R.L. Stine, the film takes you on a heart-pounding adventure filled with monsters, mayhem, and mysteries. Goosebumps airs this Sunday at 8 o'clock on the CHCH Sunday Blockbuster. How'd I do?
Is that the Jack Black one?
That is the Jack Black one.
Okay. I didn't see it.
There's a new one on Disney Plus.
A series with
Justin Long. I was a little under the weather, a little self-induced under the weather on Sunday.
Oh, fair.
And I just was on the couch, watched all 5 episodes that were released on the Friday.
Oh, is it good?
It's okay. So it's all right. Like, it's kind of gross. Like, there's a part with worms that's gross. Like, if you're not, it's all CGI, but yeah, it was all right.
Okay.
I'm always looking for new shows. I might go back. But how was your vacation? We'll get to more about it in just a second, how your vacation was. Okay. I didn't want to start with that question. I want to start with happy birthday, Trending Now.
Yeah, so excited.
1 year of Trending Now. Thousands of stories, you would think, right? Have you done the math? So there's at least 3 reels. There's at least 3 major stories. Yeah. There's VOs. So let's say
6 stories a day.
Times, I don't know what the days are. I mean, we're talking like 250 at least, probably. So when you and Nicole Martin, the other co-creator of Trending Now, is that accurate? That's a fair statement. I can call you co-creator. Yeah. When you and Nicole came up with the idea for the show in this past year, how has it grown? How has it been what you expected it to be? What's different than maybe you didn't expect it to be?
Well, if you know Nicole and I, we are a little bit overly ambitious. So it's
what? Okay, sure. Go ahead.
So it started a little bit.
Continue.
We thought we were going to be doing a lot more. With what people? I don't know. But Nicole and I were like, we can do this. We can do this. We couldn't. But for the most part, it's stayed true to our vision of wanting to talk about what everybody's talking about on the internet. That can prove challenging at times because
the internet's a weird place.
It is a weird place. And sometimes, a story could be trending for 3 days, but there's nothing new for days 2 and 3. So, we're not going to talk about it again if nothing's changed. But for the most part, we've stayed true to our vision. We wanted to be available on all platforms. Mostly we are. Some
Bill C-18.
Yeah, some stuff has.
Sorry, Facebook. Sorry, not sorry, Facebook and Instagram. Get your shit together, Facebook and Instagram, so we can continue posting on them. And that's a rare swear, and I've been told I'm allowed to swear. I'm not allowed to say the F-bomb, but I'm allowed to swear, so I can say, get your shit together, Facebook and Instagram. We want to be able to post again.
Do I? I don't know.
It's more work for you, but yeah.
But
the PA, actually, come on, it's more work for the PA.
I have to post to Instagram. She has to post to Facebook.
Fair,
so that's
fair. Okay,
fair.
All right.
It's more work for both of us.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Side note.
It's been interesting to develop the show over the course of a year. It's been a little sad because I haven't had Nicole here with me for the whole time. And she's so incredibly talented at what she does that it was a little bit daunting to only have 3 months with her and then to be like, oh my God, I have to do this all by myself when she's like a really great rock.
She's coming back,
on.
right?
She is.
Okay.
January.
All right.
She'll be back. January 1st actually is a Monday, so.
Oh, and we work
1st.
holidays. By the way, the lights flash. Please make a note of that. Please make a note of that in the production log there, Justin Peeler, who's directing for Mike Corson today. Shout out Justin Peeler.
We have had some really great people join us. Like having Kelly for 8 months was wonderful, and now we have Matt, and he's also like a jack of all trades who can help us do a lot of stuff. And we can't forget our VJs. Like Manesa has kind of been the main VJ. We're having sprinkles here and there of other people who have been great, but Manesa was really awesome to have on the show. And
Manesa has been on the evening news. She is on tonight's show. She will be joining us. I mentioned Matt Ingram will be joining us as well coming up on today's show. Thousands of stories. How do you keep track? How do you move past an episode? Like, you do it and you just, it's on to the next one?
Yes.
You can't really dwell on anything when you're doing 250 shows, 300 shows.
Sometimes if I thought it was a good episode, I'll go back and watch the stuff we did later that night. But yeah.
Do you PVR it?
No. Well, no. I just watch it on
your mom?
YouTube. She used to,
Okay.
if she would miss it. But now she doesn't really care as much anymore. Because it's been a year.
It's been a year. She watches. It's not saying she doesn't watch. Let's get that.
For the most part, when you work, I know for a lot of people that's not true. It can be tough and things can weigh you down. But for the most part, you just kind of have to move on. Every Friday, you ask me, what do you want to talk about on the podcast? I'm like, what did we do?
What did we do?
week?
And then you go back to the YouTube page and check. We also have to shout out our amazing team of editors, Francesca and Justin, have been here since day one. And then everybody who's filled in. Jasmine's filling in today, but a ton of people have filled in on the editing bay.
We have an additional writer now who helps us out.
Shout out Joanna. And Hottie, whoever it is,
Joanna,
Sam.
Samantha,
Yeah, good call.
We've gotten some much needed help. And then, the control room too. We couldn't do what we do without Bill and Chantel and Alex. And Louie has become a part.
Oh my god!
Become a part of our
come on
success as well. So
you know what? I always thought the idea of the show was to launch the podcast. So but I mean, even when he pitched this idea, a podcast was part of it.
Yeah,
it was part of it. Because I remember Nicole watching that first episode back in February. Which again, I've been doing this 10 months now on this show,
which seems so crazy.
Yeah. I'm gonna appreciate all our new dedicated listeners since we launched CHCH Podcast. I gotta tell you, I was at Odds on James Street, I think. The Arkells bar. It was a Sunday, watching the Bills game, and this person stopped me, and I was coming back. It's a narrow bar, so it's short.
Yes, I've been there.
Yeah, so I was coming back from the washroom, and this person stopped me, somebody around our age, being like, "Hey, you're on CHCH, CHCH." I'm like, "Oh, normally I deny it, eh." I say no. The first time I say no. I'll just say no, that's not me, man. No. And then they'll be like, "Are you sure?" And I'm like, "Okay, yeah, you got me." But this guy, I want to say his name was Wyatt. He watches the podcast.
Cool.
Or listens to the podcast. So shout out Wyatt.
I hope that's his name.
I think so. I hope so. And then he said something, I don't know if it was taller in person. Something about being in person. And then handed me a beer. And then I had the beer and then left. Because I was leaving. So
okay.
Shout out to Wyatt who watches the podcast or listens to the podcast. And hopefully that's your name. Otherwise, shout out to the person at Odds Bar who said, I listen to the podcast.
Yeah. Well, my Nonna doesn't listen to the podcast.
Yeah.
But she watches the show every night, so she sees the clips.
Yeah.
And when you
gotta get her on the podcast. No, I mean get her not on the podcast.
Oh,
but
to listen to the podcast.
I
understand.
Every listener counts to my bosses.
The first Friday that I wasn't here before I went on vacation, because I wasn't actually on vacation, I just don't work on my birthday, and that was my birthday.
It's a rule.
She saw the clip of Emily talking about
being the
producer and whatever. She was so concerned. She was like, why are they saying that? You're not the producer? I'm like, Nonna, I'm on vacation.
Were you sitting beside her at this time?
No, she texted me.
Okay.
And she was very concerned. Yeah. So she pays attention to the podcast clip in show.
That counts. If she wants to catch the podcast, chch.com/podcasts is where you can get it. There's a QR code, the Trending Now YouTube page. or chch.com/podcast, or wherever you get your favorite podcasts. There's a button on the screen that says podcast now on CarPlay.
Oh, love it.
You can just hit that, and then it's. You mentioned your vacation.
Yes.
You've been away 1, 2, 3, 4. You've been away 3 weeks because you said you didn't work on your birthday. That was week 1.
That doesn't count. It was a day.
It was still a Friday that you weren't here.
Okay, so 3 weeks of the podcast, but I'm pretty sure you only did 2 weeks of the podcast because someone was sick.
Yeah. Was it me?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Oh, yeah. My apologies, listeners, for that show we missed a couple of weeks ago. How was your vacation? Where'd you go? What'd you do?
We went to Italy, my whole family.
Nice.
So we did.
You're Italian.
My grandparents, yeah, they're from Italy. My mom's parents and my dad's parents are from Italy. So 3rd generation, I guess.
Oh, yes. Yeah. What was that? What was it like?
It was too hot, personally. It was like 35 degrees in Rome. It was crazy. You've been in Toronto in the summer. It's uncomfortable.
It's lots of concrete, lots of some. Yeah. Okay.
So that was like a little bit like sweaty. But other than that, the weather was. We didn't have any rainy day. We didn't have any cloudy day.
Yeah.
Like great weather. You
said it was hot. Was it great weather or was it too hot?
Well, it was a little bit too hot, but I guess arguably that's great weather.
Yeah. And you didn't have a lot of pasta, you said.
Oh, I had too much pasta.
Oh, I thought you said, but there was only like one type of pasta.
Yes,
like there wasn't very variety. Yeah. Okay.
It was like it's called bigoli. It's like a spaghetti.
Okay.
Anyways, apparently it's a hit in the northern cities of Italy because there wasn't really much other pasta variations, but it was delicious anyways.
Well, happy birthday to Trending Now, your little TV baby that you and Nicole helped create, and looking forward to many, many more years of Trending Now.
Yes.
Yes. Looking forward to many, many years. Laura Sebben, thanks for doing this. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Louie.
All right. That is Laura Sebben. She is the producer. She is she's the producer and the co-creator of the Trending Now podcast. All right. Switching gears to the latest from Gaza. As the war between Hamas and Israel stretches into its second week, Hamas militants today freed 2 Americans, a mother and her teenage daughter, who had been held hostage in Gaza since militants rampaged through Israel 2 weeks ago. That, according to the Israeli government, the pair, who also hold Israeli citizenship, were the first hostages to be released, and more than 200 are still being held. Hamas says it was releasing them in an agreement with Qatari government for humanitarian reasons. Meanwhile, relatives of other captives welcomed the release and appealed for others to be free. And to discuss this, we bring in the man who's been on the story since the war broke. Matt Ingram is joining us here. And Matt, this is a pretty big development considering the threats that Hamas had put. They had said, if there was going to be an air attack, we would televise the executions of hostages. This is sort of the first sign that they're willing to negotiate, it seems, or...
You know what? Who knows? Who knows what this is a sign of, except it's a sign of one positive development in this whole thing, that 2 people have been freed. It's probably not a coincidence that they're American within days of Joe Biden visiting the region. We spoke with an expert this week. I can't remember which. I think it was John Allen. He was the former Canadian ambassador to Israel, who I asked him about how to get the hostages back. And he did speculate that, well, if Hamas was smart, this certainly could build some goodwill. There could be some release of hostages. So he kind of saw it happening like that, which is interesting because that might be exactly how it happened. Now, Hamas leadership is actually hosted in Qatar. So that's why the Qatari government is kind of a key player in this whole situation. They're going to be the ones who are directly negotiating with Hamas because of the prior relationship.
You mentioned Biden making the trip this week. Some people saying, it's great to see a U.S. sitting president there, a meeting with Benjamin Netanyahu. It did come on the backdrop that Middle Eastern leaders canceled a planned summit that was supposed to happen in Jordan. How is the Biden trip being felt abroad? How is it being felt in the U.S.? What's kind of the takeaway from his trip to Israel?
Well, I think from Biden's point of view, it was successful. He had to do a couple of things. He had to go to Israel to show solidarity. He had to promise that the continuance of military aid from the U.S. would happen. And he had to do something on the humanitarian front for the Palestinian people, because these images out of Gaza have been horrific. His trip comes the day after that horrible hospital blast that killed hundreds, at a time when Israel was pointing the finger at Islamic Jihad, another terrorist group in Gaza, and Hamas was claiming it was Israel. This very high tension moment where he shows up and he does a couple significant things. Number one, he comes out publicly saying he believes Israel's denial that they had nothing to do with the hospital blast. So that's a big thing. Our government has not yet said which side it lands on.
What are the challenges in determining kind of a final fall? Because I've been told investigators aren't allowed in to come see, like Howard, like well, what's, I mean, it's U.S. intelligence. That's how Biden kind of claimed.
And IDF intelligence.
And IDF intelligence,
So remember, you're dealing with the United States military. It's the most powerful military that's ever existed in the history of this planet. They have tools. They have ways. You know, the IDF has ways and tools as well, as any military does. I obviously haven't seen any of that intelligence, but whatever it was enough to make the American president in front of the entire world say, I believe Israel.
Last week on the show, we were talking about a planned ground attack from Israel. I believe they were just telling everybody to start evacuating from the northern half of Gaza to the south. Where are we in terms of the ground offensive that Israel is planning? Has it happened?
No, it hasn't happened yet, and they've warned for several days that it's imminent, and it certainly looks like that. There's tanks, equipment, and troops massed at the border with Gaza. There's also tanks and troops massed at the Lebanese border because there's been a continuation of crossfire between militants in Lebanon, the Hezbollah group, and others with Israeli forces inside Israel. But with the Gaza, the assumed ground invasion that's coming, just yesterday, Yoav Gallant, who's the Israeli defense minister, visited infantry troops sitting on the border at Gaza and told them that they will very soon see the inside of Gaza. So, you know, another hint that it's coming. The challenge, which I heard one of the Israeli government spokespeople talking about earlier today, is, well, Hamas knows it's coming. So they're now waiting for an opportunity to have some sort of tactical advantage. And I'm not a soldier, nor do I pretend to be. I'm just relating what I'm hearing in my reporting, that they will have to now find an opportunity to start this invasion. But expect it soon. And
made difficult by the amount of the intricate tunnel system that Hamas has created underneath Gaza, more than 300 kilometers of tunnels that run under the most most densely populated place in the world.
Yeah, and I mean, civilians have moved south. However, the south's been bombed as much as the north. I mean, just yesterday we were talking about Khan Yunis. So that's an area further to the south. And there were people there who had been victims of airstrikes. One man saying he came from Gaza City. He listened to the order to escape to the south, and he still got bombed. So the feeling on the ground is that there's nowhere safe in Gaza, and I think they're right. I mean, the airstrikes are still coming. You know, the Israeli military said last night it hit over 100 different terrorist targets within Gaza. That's not slowing up. You know, and especially when the ground invasion starts, we're only going to see this thing get a lot bloodier.
I was just about to say, I mean, has either side, I mean, I'm sure Israel is saying we want to get rid of Hamas. That is the goal. What is it? What is the finish? What does the end line look like? Has anyone indicated what that could possibly look like or when it could possibly come?
No, and I think, you know, today Justin Trudeau said he supports a two-state solution. Which is something that's been long talked about.
Yeah.
But I think that in this moment, you know, that we're still trying to get through this moment. Yeah. They can't be thinking, I don't think at least, that they're thinking about the finish line right now. They're just thinking about de-escalating. You know, for Israel, it's about getting the hostages back and annihilating Hamas.
Yeah.
So until they do that, I don't see the Israeli government talking about a peace solution or much of a de-escalation. I think the fact that they're even allowing any humanitarian aid in is a win. And like I was talking about with Joe Biden's trip, he had to accomplish certain things. getting some aid for the Gazan people was certainly part of it.
And even that aid, it's not coming easily, right?
No,
we've
and
seen
it's
there's
still not
delays that's being held up.
And even what does get in, it's going to be 20 to 25 truckloads.
Yeah.
Well,
there's millions of people.
The UN says on a normal day for Gaza, they need about 100 truckloads of aid a day.
Yeah.
And people are still dying. The hospitals are running out of everything. There's nowhere safe. I mean, you're living in a rubble pile and being told to go to a different rubble pile because, hey, you might be safer there. But I don't think anyone really knows.
It's just some of the images that are coming out, man.
Terrific.
It's just, it really is. And the sooner that this war can come to an end, the better. Let's get you on something lighter next week, please.
Yeah, I guess it depends on the news segment, right?
I know. We just said that's how Trending Now works, but I appreciate all the work you're doing on this, Matt. Really appreciate it.
Appreciate it, man.
All right, Matt Ingram, my thanks to him for joining me on today's show. Manesa Dhanabalan will be stopping by in just a few moments. But for now, let's get to some of the other stories that were trending this week, including trending today. Hardline conservative Republican Jim Jordan's quest to become Speaker of the U.S. House of Representatives ended as his fellow Republicans revoked their support following a third failed vote on the House floor. The secret ballot vote means the chamber will be leaderless and unable to respond to President Joe Biden's request for aid to Ukraine and Israel until next week at the earliest. Now, opposition to the hard-right Jordan's candidacy from within his party grew over the course of the week as some 25 Republican lawmakers voted against him in a third round of balloting on the House floor today. That's more than the 22 who had opposed him in the second round on Wednesday. In total, Jordan received 194 votes. That's well short of the 214 he needed to claim the Speaker's gavel. Republicans then voted to revoke Jordan's nomination in a closed-door meeting. Now ending its third work week without a leader, the House cannot act on a $106 billion national security package unveiled by Biden today that would bolster U.S. border security and send billions to Israel and Ukraine. Multiple GOP House Republicans have already announced their intention to run for the job, which puts them second in line to the U.S. presidency. Also trending in the U.S., Donald Trump's civil fraud trial judge has threatened to hold the former president in contempt. This raises the possibility of fining or even jailing Trump because a disparaging social media post about a key court staffer remained visible for weeks on his campaign website after the judge had ordered it deleted. Judge Arthur Ingram said on Friday that the website's retention of the post was a, quote, blatant violation of his order, requiring Trump to immediately delete the message. The gag order also barred personal attacks on members of the judge's staff. Judge didn't immediately rule on sanctioning Trump. The post was removed from the website late Thursday, and a Trump attorney called the post's presence online an unintentional oversight. And weed, Mary Jane, pot, marijuana, dope, grass, ganja, chronic, skunk, reefer, whatever you want to call it. It's been 5 years since Canada legalized recreational cannabis in 2018. A report released last week analyzing cannabis laws has found the industry, the healthcare sector, and community groups all say the current regulations under which weed is legal are outdated and causing problems. The report, outlining the issues, including 40% of the cannabis market is still controlled by illicit sellers. There's weighty taxes, a race to the bottom on cannabis prices, and advertising restrictions makes it difficult to match customers with the right products. The report says because of this, companies across the supply chain are struggling to realize profits and maintain financial viability. And to shift gears completely, Manesa Dhanabalan is with us here. She is reporting. She's the video journalist this week. I guess I'm not going to put this on you. You weren't on this story. But one of the things here they say, advertising restrictions make it difficult to match customers with the right products. How many alcohol advertisements do you see at any given time? Like watching sports. So I was thinking about this watching the Leafs game the other night. On the board, it's Molson Canadian. Then it goes to Bacardi. The segment is brought to you by Kraken Rum or something like that. Like, alcohol is in our face all the time in advertising. I've never seen a weed commercial in my life. Isn't that weird?
Seen a weed commercial.
Because there's still a stigma around marijuana. Would you say?
Yeah.
5 years after it's been legalized?
100%. I do feel that there's a stigma. I feel like
Because, like, if I were to say on this show right now, like, what are you doing this weekend? Oh, like, I'm going to go home, have a few drinks, you know, have some beers with somebody. Like, my buddy's coming over, and, you know, we're going to have some beers and watch the game. What if I said, what are you doing this weekend? Oh, like, we're going to watch the game. I'm going to roll a couple of joints and have a couple of edibles.
yeah, it takes a lot for somebody to actually, yeah, it's not the first thing somebody would say. They would just be like, oh, I'm just having like a nice chill weekend. A lot of nice relaxing weekend.
So when you say you're having a nice chill weekend, now we can figure that out. But there is there is a certain amount of stigma that's still tied to marijuana in this country.
There is, even though it's so different now. Like it's changed a lot. Like, yeah, people don't look at
there's
and stuff, but
there's a weed shop on every corner.
There is.
Like, there's thousands, and I've known people who have known people who own these stores, and they've had to close multiple locations just because it's so oversaturated. The 40% of the cannabis market still being controlled by illicit sellers, that seems to be a pretty big issue. There's an illegal place in St. Catharines, down the street from where I live, where it's like cash only, and they sell products for like higher percentages.
There's one, yeah. Saga too.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, even when you're like going there and whatever, there's like.
Oh, you seem to know a lot about this place.
I really don't. No, it's not for me. It's research.
Oh, it's research. It's research. It's research.
I'll just stop talking now.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess for me, it just seems like, yeah, like, oh, I'm having a nice glass of wine with dinner. It's like, I'm having a nice joint with dinner. Like,
yeah.
Doesn't sound the same.
So what are your plans for this weekend? Now that we got to that, are you having a nice glass of wine for dinner?
I'm heading to go cheer on the Western Mustangs football team. They're taking on the Laurier Golden Hawks this weekend in a giant U Sports football action. But I have a couple friends that went to Western, and they're going to make me an honorary Mustang. They're going to give me the purple hoodie, and they're going to let me take part. So looking forward to that.
Aw, that's nice.
Yeah, it's the first time in a long time I trust my vehicle to get my vehicle to get the 200 kilometers it takes to get to London, because it's new, by the way. That's the last time I'm going to say it.
It's the first time it's not.
It's been 1 week. It's been 1 week, and I was allowed talking nonstop about it for 1 week. Now it's over. I can move on.
You've broken the seal.
I've broken the seal. It's over. Anytime I bring up my new car, somebody can tell me to shut up.
So now next week it's going to be an old car. I hope you know.
Well, it's going to be an old car, and you are allowed to yell at me for talking about it next week.
I won't yell at you, not after what I did last week. So.
What did you do last week? My grandma said you were too mean.
Did she actually?
Yeah. She's like,
really?
She's like, why was that Manesa girl so mean to you?
I'm so sorry to Louie's grandma, but I wish anybody heard what you had said to me this week.
I was so nice to you this week. By the way,
I'm sure you planted something on my desk.
Okay.
Smell like sour milk.
That did not happen. I was one of the first people to say great haircut today.
Actually, you were like the 7th person.
Okay, but I didn't see it for a while.
But thank you for saying that. I appreciate it. Thank you.
So what are you doing this weekend? Picking up some weed, Mary Jane pot, marijuana, dope, grass, ganja, chronic, reefer, skunk?
All of it. I'm joking.
Oh!
I'm joking. No.
Manesa's got big plans.
Not at all.
Well, thanks for doing this. I know you weren't on the show a lot this week, just today, actually.
I know.
Doing a favor for our boy Jason Gaidola.
Who has big plans
Who's got big plans today. I almost called him his nickname, not Gaidola, but Gaidolski. That's not his name.
Yeah.
But I said it right, Jason. I said your name right. But thanks for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. My thanks to Manesa for joining me, and my thanks to you for joining us as well and making us a part of your day, however you found us. And remember, wherever you are listening, to like and subscribe to CHCH Podcast so you never miss an episode of this show, or Newsmakers, where this week I welcome the Hamilton Spectator's Susan Claremont and TICAD's Director of Community Partnerships, Courtney Stephen. And you can find that wherever you found today's show. There's the screen. If you're watching it, just scan the QR code or go to chch.com/podcast. My thanks to Justin Peeler for directing today's show. My thanks to the production assistant, Alex Last. Graphics was Bill. Thanks, Bill. And my thanks to you, as always, for joining us. Like, subscribe so you never miss an episode. On behalf of all of us here at CHCH, I'm Louie Butko. Hoping you have a great weekend.